Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Vegan Organic Network. We showcase veganic farms, gardens, allotments, and projects from around the world. Please get in touch if you'd like to be on our show. In today's show, we'll be hearing about the veganic farming movement in India. India is the 7th largest country in the world. More than a quarter of the country is turning to desert. At 1.4 billion people, it now has the largest population in the world. India is home to an estimated 200 million malnourished people. India has a rich history of veganism and vegetarianism, with the cow being sacred in the Hindu religion. Slaughtering the cow is banned in most Indian states. However, the water buffalo is not considered sacred. After Brazil, India is one of the largest exporters of beef, that is buffalo beef, and the world's largest exporter of sheep and goat meat. Today, I'm excited to share with you the Urvarasa Model Farm project, which is aimed at empowering Indian farmers and facilitating the smooth transition of farmers from animal-based chemical agriculture to natural, plant-based, sustainable farming practices, and providing alternative livelihoods to farmers who want to stop rearing and exploiting animals across India. We have a panel of farmers and experts from the project to tell you about their work and to answer any questions. So without a further ado, I would like to introduce Madhavi Kolte, who's the co-founder and director of the Jeeva Bhavana Foundation, project leader, artist, a passionate veganic gardener. Welcome, Madhavi. Thanks for joining us. Everything okay with you?
Yeah, hi Dan. Thanks for having us here.
Great. Okay. And next on our esteemed panel today, we have Julie Wayne, co-founder and director of the Jeeva Bhavana Foundation, economist, photographer, writer, political, environmental, and animal rights activist. Welcome, Julie. How are you doing?
Great. Really happy to be here with you all today.
Brilliant. Okay, well, good to see you. And also on today's panel, we have Namratha Sastry, an engineer by education, a farmer by heart, a forest enthusiast by soul, a traveler by interest, and an eco-activist as a person. Welcome, Namratha. Hi.
Hello, Dan.
How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Excited to be here today.
And last but not least, we have Arati Khatu, who is Associate Professor in Political Science at the Department of Political Science at Fergusson College, an environmental enthusiast and conservationist at heart, a vegan for the sake of the environment and the animals, passionate about people-centric sustainable development and ethical farming practices. Welcome, Arati, who's at the moment, her device isn't connected, but we've got a presentation from our panel here, and hopefully Arati will be able to join the presentation at the end of the presentation. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have the presentation from our panel, and after the presentation, we're going to ask the panel a series of questions, and if anybody that's watching the show has a question or a question comes to mind watching the presentation, please write it in your comments and send it to us, and we can include it in the questions at the end of the show. So I'm just, here we go, getting the, here it is. So we're going to add the presentation to the stage, and I'm going to hand over now to our panel who are going to guide us through the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. You can go to the next slide, actually. And so I'm Julie. I'm one of the co-founders and co-directors of Jeeva Bhavana, the mothership of Urvarasa. And before we speak about veganic farming in India, I'd like to give you all a bit of background on how we got started and also a bit of context when it comes to what farming is all about in India. Next slide, please. So way back, before COVID, Madhavi and I organized a big 2-day event in Pune, which is her hometown, called the Pune Health and Sustainability Conference. We organized it under the banner of Climate Healers, the NGO created by Dr. Sailesh Rao that many of you have probably heard about. The main focus of the event was how personal health and planetary health were so interconnected that they were like the two faces of the same coin. All of the speakers were Indian or lived and worked in India and spoke on each subject with the particularities of India in mind. Next slide, please. The conference was quite a success, and it inspired Madhavi and I, and our third co-founder, Sanjeev Naik, to create Jeeva Bhavana, a pan-India solutions-based environmental NGO. Jeeva Bhavana's primary focus is studying the devastating effects of animal agriculture on the environment and climate change, and of course on human health and animals and farmers, and also to offer solutions. Our vision is holistic, and it's grounded in ahimsa, which means non-harm or non-violence, and justice. And we seek nothing less than system change in order to create a world where all life can thrive. Jeeva Bhavana, by the way, means cultivating life. Next slide, please. So understanding that our food system really needed to be tackled and transformed, Jeeva Bhavana's mission was made manifest very early on with the establishment of Urvarasa, which means, by the way, procuring fertile soil, a program that assists farmers in their transition to organic plant-based agriculture, aimed at creating a sovereign and sustainable food system that works for everyone, humans as well as animals. What's important to know here is that between 65 to 85% of farmers in India are classified as small farmers, meaning they own less than 2 hectares of land. What's also important to know is that India is home to a quarter of the world's hungry population, the majority belonging to the farming community. And a last bit of information that's important here too is the rate of farmer suicides in India, the highest in the entire world, mainly due to their inability to repay bank loans, often taken out for heavy machinery, GMOs, and chemical fertilizers and inputs, and also the direct impacts of climate change, which brings about droughts and followed by floods that destroy crops and wipe out farmed animals, of which there are many. Due to its gigantic dairy industry, India has the largest population of cattle in the world. There are more than 300 million cows and buffaloes. So you won't be surprised to learn that India is the largest producer and Indians are the largest consumers of dairy in the world. Next slide, please. In fact, dairy is overwhelmingly ubiquitous all over India. Small and marginal farmers own about 60% of female cows and buffaloes. About 75% of rural households own, on average, 2 to 4 animals. And about 1/3 of rural incomes are dependent upon dairying as it provides a source of regular income, whereas income from agriculture is seasonal. In this informal sector, dairying is part of the farming system and not a separate enterprise. Feed is often residual from crops, and the cow dung is used as manure. So the fact of breeding and raising cows and buffaloes for dairy has become so embedded in Indian society for many reasons, but also for manure, that otherwise very rational, science-based people push the narrative that even if we don't need to or shouldn't consume dairy, we need to continue to breed these animals in order to ensure soil health. And that this is the only way that we can bring nutrients to the soil without relying on chemical inputs. And of course, the narrative creates a vicious circle. Since we need manure for soil health, we need to breed cattle. And since we need to breed cattle, we should continue to consume dairy, etc., etc., etc. Next slide, please. Dairying is thus one of the biggest challenges for Urvarasa, and our guidelines have been created to take that into account, so as not to alienate farmers who align with Urvarasa's values and realize the necessity of stopping the exploitation of animals without sending those animals to the slaughterhouse. Now, for the moment, we are focusing on farmers that do not have any animals because they are what is known as the low-hanging fruit. And this brings me to a very, very brief overview of the three main guidelines for Urvarasa, and then I'll pass the presentation over to my colleagues who will give you the practicality of Urvarasa. So each theme that I'm going to tell you has multiple sub-details, but just to give you a gist, they are very simply, number one, farmers will understand their role as caretakers of the animals currently living on their farm and treat them with respect. Number two, farmers will understand their role as caretakers of the ecological balance on their farm and treat it with respect. And number three, farmers will understand their role as caretakers of their own and their family's nutritional health. You'll be able to find a complete version of our guidelines and a lot more about Urvarasa on our website. And of course, please feel free to ask questions during the Q&A. And that's it for now. I'm handing the presentation over to Madhavi, and after that to my other colleagues, Arati and Namratha. And I'll see you all later. Thank you. Next slide, please.
You're muted. You need to unmute.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So thank you, Julie. We all are now looking at the Urvarasa model farm in Saswad, Maharashtra. Inspired by the Subhash Parekar zero-budget natural farming model, which is recognized by the United Nations as one of the most effective farming methods to mitigate the effects of climate change. We started experimenting on this farm towards the end of November 2024 with the idea of putting into practice all of Urvarasa's guidelines. For the benefit of those who don't know about natural farming, it is simply about setting up an ecosystem similar to that of a forest, where all requirements for healthy growth of crops in terms of nutrition and the natural defense mechanism against pest attacks is made available by the natural environment. We follow crop rotation, multi-cropping, and intercropping practices along with the food forests. That also helps us cut down on the weeds to a great extent. Ideally, no external input is added to the natural farm, but we did add some microbes to the soil in the start to be on the safe side, and also used neem oil spray, which is also known as neem ark in India, to fight a very small incidence of pest attack by black aphids. We hope as the system develops on the farm over the years, these inputs will be reduced. One important point I'd like to make here is that Urvarasa is responsible in hand-holding the farmers to make the transition gradually, starting from a small piece of land as against the entire plot at the same time to ensure a safe and sustainable transition for the farmer. The Urvarasa model farm is established on a fallow piece of land. It was laying fallow for, say, around 6 to 7 years, and therefore it is turned out to be beneficial to get a healthy winter crop. The winter crop is also known as the Rabi crop in India, and we harvested a good quantity of chickpeas and wheat during the season. During the monsoon season, which is the Kharif season in India, we grew natives like the pearl millet, known as bajra in India, moong beans, black beans, which is known as urad in the Indian language, cow peas known as chawli, pigeon peas known as tuar, and turmeric, which is known as haldi, and ground nuts known as moongfali in Hindi and bhuimog in Marathi. Next slide, please. So talking about a healthy ecosystem on farms, I'd like to share with you all about the sacred grove that we have been growing on a very barren and neglected part of our farmland, which is also very close to the model farm in Saswad. On the screen, you can see the transformation that has happened from February 2020 to August 2025. The sacred grove means Devrai in Marathi. Dev means God and Rai means the forest. Traditionally, sacred groves were protected, or even they are protected now wherever they are there, for spiritual and religious reasons by the locals. But the actual reason is that the local people have for centuries acknowledged the vital role a sacred grove plays in their lives by virtue of safeguarding the natural resources, for maintaining the local ecological balance, conserving biodiversity, and conserving watersheds and providing habitat for various species. Next slide, please. One of the most important objectives of Urvarasa is creating sustainable and dignified livelihood options from the farm to the plate, especially for those who want to move away from animal agriculture. It has been an incredible journey creating a partnership with Shivraj, who is a migrant from Vidarbha, a drought prone region in Maharashtra. He's a very committed farm manager for the Urvarasa model farm. And interestingly, he's also managing other conventional chemical based farms, and he's able to distinguish the stark difference between both the farming practices. He's understanding the importance of natural farming, that too without rearing animals. And that is why we look at him as a future leader who will be among the first to train farmers to farm veganically in India. Labor is mainly women and they are not easy to find. It's hard. It starts with the labor for weeding on the farm and harvesting the produce. And in future, we plan to go for simple processing of the farm produce. This employment actually will help us stop people from the villages to migrate to cities and prevent them from taking up work in extreme harsh conditions like in factories, on the roads and construction sites. Through Urvarasa, we are aiming to create a pathway towards a sustainable parallel circular economy. Next slide, please. We are also committed to creating a secure market for Urvarasa farmers, which is the cornerstone of the project. From that point of view, we are engaging with the consumers, especially by organizing farm visits for transparency and to bring them in direct contact with the farm. Here is a group belonging to the vegan community. They volunteered for the harvest of the winter crop and interacted with the neighboring farmers who are also quite curious about the Urvarasa project. In this slide, you can also see the mechanized thrashing of wheat crop after it was harvested manually. So as an environmental organization, we are very serious about low or no mechanized intervention to cut down our carbon footprint. Next slide, please. We have also installed a water meter to measure the water used on the Urvarasa farm because knowing the water crisis in the region, we want to set a precedent of responsible consumption of water on the farm and maintain the transparency for our fellow farmers and also make this practice the selling point for the project. We would like to eventually install such meters on the neighboring farms. And this practice will help us collect data and research for effective community engagements in future. And of course, next slide, please. For the past 3 years, we have been selling our produce at the Vasundhara Grain Festival. It is a very popular natural farmers fest where conscious consumers come and buy from farmers only after they are convinced about the clean farming practices. We participate in this fest so that we can network about the work Jeeva Bhavana is doing and also connect with farmers who could be interested in joining the Urvarasa program. This festival has also inspired us to organize a fest for potential Urvarasa farmers. And we would like to create a similar platform for farmers who do not have animals on the farm or who do not wish to continue with animal farming anymore. However, this initiative is yet in the conception stage. Now, I'd like to invite Namratha, a veganic farmer from Bangalore, to share about a beautiful farm called the Bilva Natural Farm. Over to you, Namratha. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Madhavi. So our farm is called Bilva. On the next slide, so here in the picture you see what you see is the Bilva farm nestled at the foothills of Nandi Hills, around an hour's drive from Bangalore city center. Here is a quick look at the farm layout where we are growing everything from vegetables, pulses, and fruits. In the area where it looks like there is some digging work happening, we planted a congregation of trees. On the next slide, you'll see a 5-year-old Miyawaki forest. An ancient Chinese proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So When we started off at Bilva, we decided to plant a Miyawaki forest, not just to add greenery, but to nurture biodiversity and create a thriving habitat for birds, butterflies, and countless beneficial insects. On the next slide, you'll see Miyawaki volunteers. On the day we planted our Miyawaki forest, it was right in the middle of the COVID period. Even then, we had incredible support. A group of volunteers and our own farm team came together to plant about 450 local species. It was such a hopeful moment amid all the uncertainty. The next slide, Dan, please. Apart from the Miyawaki forest, when it came to growing our vegetables and fruits, I took a very experimental approach. I drew from different farming philosophies, a little bit of permaculture, some zero budget natural farming, and even ideas from Korean natural farming. Honestly, I just mishmashed whatever intrigued me or felt right for the land. And that mix has shaped how we grow at Bilva today. Most of these farming philosophies have cow dung or cow urine as their base ingredients. But since we didn't have any cows or animals on the farm, we had to rely on our neighboring farms to get what we needed. This meant carefully timing our visits with the cows' schedules. Not an easiest thing to do at all. It soon became a tedious and expensive process, both logistically and financially. That's when we decided to stop using animal based inputs altogether and instead explore plant based and microbial alternatives that didn't depend on any animal products. The next slide. In 2023, I came across the concept of veganism and it deeply resonated with me. I was grateful to realize that my desires do not entitle me to the life of another being. That thought changed the way I looked at everything I did, especially in terms of environmental impact. When I reflected on our farming practices, I realized that we were already doing vegan organic farming without even meaning to. It was awakening to know that we had accidentally turned ourselves vegan simply by following what felt right and sustainable. The next slide. Since we were not adding any external inputs to the soil, we decided to invest in a few machines that could help us increase the layers of mulch and also diversify the types of mulch we used. This helped enrich the soil while staying true to our low intervention vegan farming approach. The next slide. When we started Bilva Farm, the idea was simple. I wanted to grow good, clean food for my family and extended family in Bangalore. That's really how my farming journey began. From the start, we planted only native varieties of seeds, and before long, we found ourselves with an abundance of produce, far more than all our families could consume. It was a happy problem to have, but also a tedious task to make sure the extra vegetables were properly used and never wasted. On the next slide, you will see our farmer couple. When we changed our strategy, once again, we began growing staples instead of just growing vegetables. At this point, I must acknowledge and express my heartfelt gratitude to the farmer couple, Narsireddy and Nagamma, who are truly the backbone of Bilva. They are the ones who make everything on the ground possible. Bilva exists because of their dedication and hard work. The next slide. Some of the staples we grow need a bit of processing, and we have always chosen to do that naturally. Thanks to the abundant sunlight we have here in India, we rely on simple traditional methods like sun drying instead of using mechanical or chemical processes. The next slide. After the strategy change, whatever extra produce we are growing beyond our own consumption is being sold at the farmers market. This farmers market takes place every Sunday, just a short distance from Bilva. It's always a joy to see people from neighborhood communities coming and buying fresh produce straight from our farm. Next slide. From the farmers market, farm visits, and word of mouth, we have built a small circle of loyal customers who truly love our vegetables. Some of them have even told me that when they cook our produce, it reminds them of their childhood, of the flavors and freshness they grew up with. And honestly, that's the biggest compliment a farmer can ever receive, and I hold it very close to my heart. On the next slide, you'll see a lot of human visitors apart from birds and beneficial insect pollinators who visit our farm, Bilwa. Farmers, farming enthusiasts, and even agricultural researchers and professors often came by to see what we are doing here, to understand how we have managed to grow and thrive without using any animal based inputs. It's always heartening to share our learnings and see their curiosity and appreciation. On the next slide, I have put together a list of all fruits, vegetables, and greens that we grow. And these are the quantities we have harvested since March 2025. What I have not written here though, is that during the rainy months, we managed to harvest about 10 kgs of slugs and snails every week. I think Dan understands what that means, but yeah, that's Bilwa for all of you. Honest, messy, abundant, and alive. Thank you so much. And I pass on the baton to Arati on the next slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Namratha. Um, on our farm, Balwad Bagh, literally Balwad Garden, is located in a village called Balwad in Rajgarh, Velhe, towards the south of Pune district in Maharashtra, India. Next slide, please. Mostly abounding in rocks, the clayey soil grew some grasses, which were grazed upon by cattle until we acquired it in 2022. A few patches of paddy fields held promise for practicing some agriculture. The first thing that we did was to raise a fence along our property. This stopped the cattle straying in and grazing. The result was that from the very next season, we had grasses growing undisturbed and completing their full life cycle. We witnessed a burst of colors with their flowering, and the earlier bare terrain now felt truly alive. Next slide, please. This is a breathtaking view of the flowering grasses at night. Watching the regeneration of the landscape was a sheer delight. Next, please. A strikingly lush green thicket in the middle of the otherwise bare landscape attracts attention immediately. It is a sacred grove or devrai, a tradition that has kept patches of green alive in many parts of the country. As we move to the next slide, we can see that the natural vegetation is grasses, thorny bushes, and wild berries. But the most striking is the abundantly growing bamboo on every hill slope, seen everywhere, welcoming travelers at every turn of the road. Next slide, please. Among the slopes of the hills around grew bamboo in abundance, befitting its well earned reputation as being a paradise of bamboo for this region. We have, in fact, even built a bamboo hut with natural and locally available materials, engaging local labor for our stay. Next, please. Balwad Bagh is a piece of sloped land with a little stream of rainwater that goes live only during the rainy season. The village faces a water crisis from February each year until the pre monsoon showers towards the end of May generally. The groundwater levels in the old well in the farm were inadequate for year long farming of vegetables or even watering fruit trees or for human consumption. To address this, we invested in a well to ensure a year round water supply for both agricultural and domestic needs. We are also looking to bring into being a farm pond to create a vibe of a water body on the property. Next, please. We aimed to cultivate local rice and ragi millet varieties, collaborating with neighboring farmers and their traditional knowledge. Not many farmers were growing fruit trees due to the water shortage, as the abundance of the monsoons was used up for growing paddy and for milch animals. Most farmers grew just one crop a year. It is called rain fed agriculture because the groundwater levels were inadequate for the year long farming of vegetables or watering fruit trees or even for human consumption. For all our fruit trees and the rice field, we have used an entirely plant based compost that we made from our kitchen waste and dry leaves in our garden and the neighborhood here in Pune. In this picture, there are the locals and our guests together carrying out paddy plantation as well as the harvest, creating enthusiasm among the consumers for our produce. Next, please. We planted flowering trees to attract natural pollinators on the plot. We also have fruit trees that are slowly taking root. We have seen the rise in the vegetation and regeneration of soil cover on our farm in the last 3 odd years. We are looking forward to working in tune with nature and nurture it as we derive nourishment from the fertility of the soil. Next, please. As a part of our commitment to veganic farming, we have also invested in a gadget that takes care of much avoidable labor both for animals and humans in the form of this power tiller machine. Next, please. We cherish our vision of conscious agricultural practice, mindful of the ecology and the environment, while meaningfully engaging with the community towards compassionate and sustainable farming and consumption, especially through our association with Jeeva Bhavana Urvarasa. Over to you, Madhavi, for the next slide presentation.
Thank you, Arati. And now, as we have presented our vegan farmers, I'd like to take you all through two of our transitioning farmers. Um, the first one is the Bal Gangadhar Chhatralaya, which is located in Rahuri in Maharashtra. It is home to 64 destitute children. Most of them belong to farming communities living in utter poverty, where the parents cannot afford their upbringing. The orphanage has state-of-art living facilities and connected with 20 plus acre of farmland that fulfills the daily nutritional requirements of the children and the staff. The manager, Prakash Satkar, has shown keen interest in the project of Urvarasa and which can take the food production at the next level, and also making it toxin free now with adopting the Urvarasa guidelines. So the excess product produce also can be sold to conscious consumers at a premium price. And we would also explore the possibility of setting up a simple food processing unit to add value to the farm produce and create financial support to sustain the orphanage. Next slide, please. So, what are the usual crops here? They're basically cash crops like soybean, sugarcane, and wheat. Presently, these are the crops commonly grown here, along with vegetables and legumes and seasonal fruits, so that they fulfill the food requirements of the orphanage. This year, they also had sunflower. What Urvarasa plans here is develop around 2 acres using the veganic farming practices. 1 acre would be vegetables for the residents, and another acre would be a food forest in the form of a fruit orchard. Next slide, please. Presently, the farm is supported by adequate water sources in the form of an artificial pond and 2 to 3 wells and around 2 tube wells. Next slide, please. And here you see the students are participating with a lot of enthusiasm. They are children between the age 10 and 24. They are regularly doing work on the farm, like sowing and harvesting. And I think they're blessed to be able to do this activity on the farm, to be equipped with the most important life skill is to grow your own food and make the orphanage food secure. Another important possibility on this farm is developing a training center to train farmers in the region to adopt vegan farming practices, especially because now this region is picking up on its dairy practices. Next slide, please. Um, I'd like to introduce you all to our star farmer, Ram Hari Kadam. His farm is called Vishwajit Natural Farm in Pandharpur, Maharashtra. Ramhari Kadam is a resident of Gopalpur in a village near Pandharpur in Maharashtra, and he has been interestingly a chemical based fertilizer company, an agent for a chemical based fertilizer company, and he's witnessed the exploitation of farmers by these nefarious industries. And he also had cattle on his farm in the past until one day he connected the dots about the cruel practices in the dairy industry. Since then, he has, of course, rescued the cow which was about to go to slaughter at the local slaughterhouse, but also stopped consuming dairy or even use animal based products. And he became vegan without even knowing the term vegan. Ramari represents another very, very important guideline of Urvarasa, which is to take good care of his farmed animals until their natural cycle comes to an end and not breed them for their products. For soil nutrition, of course, Ramari does use Jeevamrut, which is a concoction of indigenous cow dung, urine, jaggery, and gram flour. He also uses bioenzymes, and he intends to use more biomass, but it is not available as much as the farm needs. So he has to purchase it from a neighborhood farm. Um, this shortage of biomass can be overcome by growing a food forest, but because the region is drought prone and facing a lot of extreme erratic weather conditions, we've faced a challenge to grow this fruit orchard, for the past 5 years, ever since we've been working together. So currently, we are exploring for support to construct an artificial pond here to supply water to grow the food forest, and then we assume, we see that things will fall into place. Next. And this is the Kadam family. Lakshman is Ram Hari's brother who actually works on the farm, and that's his wife Varsha. And their son Vishwajit is with Ram Hari and beautiful Kosi and Sukri. So these are the two beautiful animals on the farm. Kosi is 27 years old and Sukri is 21 years old. I'm sure you all agree that they look very young simply because they have never been exploited for their products. They are left untethered most of the time in an enclosed space. And Ram Hari aspires to continue giving shelter to such cows who are, can be saved from going for slaughter after Kosi and Sukri have completed their natural cycle. Next slide, please. And these are our famous products from Ram Hari's farm. We started with Urvarasa products from Ram Hari's farm, and the Tuar, pigeon pea, and pomegranates are extremely popular amongst our consumers. And the unfortunate part is because of the extreme weather conditions, we haven't had this produce for the past 1 year, and the farmer is impacted by this loss. And of course, the consumers are missing this amazing product. So, next slide, please. As Julie mentioned in the start, India is home to 1/4 of the world's hungry population, most of whom belong to the farming community. As a solutions-based organization, we have designed the program to empower the farmer and take control of his food security. And that's the bottom line of this project. One of the most important guidelines under Urvarasa is that each Urvarasa farmer will grow a kitchen garden on a small portion of his land. And while the farm produce and the fruit orchard will fulfill the nutritional requirements of Ramhari's family, the kitchen garden will ensure a steady supply of toxin-free, nutritionally dense vegetables for his family. Now, I'd like to hand over to Namratha to share some of our exciting plans for the future. Next slide, please.
One more slide next, Dan. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Madhavi, again. I'll keep this brief and share a few directions that we are most excited about for Urvarasa. As Julie rightly pointed out in the beginning, that in India, animals often serve as the fallback livelihood for farmers in the off season. At Urvarasa, we want to reimagine that model. to explore sustainable, non-animal alternatives that can offer both income and dignity. Once farmers see that such livelihoods are possible, we believe it could spark a real shift in thinking. At this point, we welcome ideas and any such implemented models across the globe. We would request you to reach out to us or write to us. Our email is mentioned on the slide. Alongside this, we want to grow a community of organic and vegan farmers around our model farms, turning these farms into living classrooms where others can learn from what works and, just as importantly, from what doesn't work. We are also working on developing a vegan farming manual for the Indian context, which we hope will become a practical hands on guide for all future Urvarasa farmers. And just like Bilwa, which has become a space for curiosity and connection, we envision Urvarasa as a place where learning is shared, ideas are tested, and transformation begins. Thank you. Next slide, and over to Arati.
Thank you, Namratha. In our journey so far, we have reached out to several farmers. It is not easy for them to give up the farming practices that they have carried out for a long time, even though they are convinced about it. So the challenge is that making them or expecting them to move away from chemical and animal based farming practices might require a lot of conviction on the part of the farmers, like Ramhari has shown, and plenty of efforts on our part, which we are seeking to extend in our efforts to demonstrate to farmers how it will work. What we really need is success at our model farms to demonstrate to the transitioning farmers that the Urvarasa model of veganic farming is an economically and environmentally viable one. A seamless channel of conscious and committed customers for matching farm produce and demand is another issue, but that is about getting it going, and we are sure that it will work. The current lack of government support to these sustainable practices, however, is an important concern. It means that the level playing field is not available to veganic farmers in their transitioning process from their previous farming practices into veganic farming practices. I now hand it over to Madhavi for sharing some of the necessities to advance our work. Next slide, please.
Sure, Aarti. Of course, we need support. We are a very small organization and most of it is self funded. So, if you're inspired by our project, you're most welcome to write to us. Our email address is mentioned on the slide. We are also looking for an expert who can guide us more on the veganic farming knowledge. Our team is gathering experience from whatever we're doing on the ground, and uh, but still, we'd be thrilled if we can have two or more experts who can get us more farmers on board, much faster. And we also need help for farming equipment. So if anybody would like to support by giving us, helping us get this equipment and help us in kind, that is our priority. Um, Setting up a social enterprise is a very important aspect to get farmers on board. And again, we are people working on the ground, so not necessarily that it is our expertise to create a business model. So if we have anybody who would like to give us advice or even partner with us, take the social enterprise part ahead, we'll be very happy to get into this partnership. So we are open to any help that will advance our work. Yes, thank you. And Julie, I think you can conclude the session. Next slide, please.
So so this is, I'm wrapping it up now, and I just want to thank everybody for being here with us today. A very, very special thank you to Dan and the Vegan Organic Network. It really is a fantastic opportunity for us to be able to talk to the world about what we're doing in India, and also the enthusiasm that many of the people who are watching us today will have. We really welcome you to follow us, to just take a look at our website where you get a lot more information about Urvarasa. Be in contact with us, follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, be in contact, send us your questions, your queries, reach out to us if you'd like to give us a hand. We are just really, really happy to be able to invite all of you to become involved in Urvarasa. And now I think we can open this up to questions. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. What a brilliant presentation, very enlightening. And we've got lots of questions from our audience today. One question I've got is our vegan organic world map. Has that played a part at all in your project?
Certainly, Dan. It helped us identify the vegan farms in the country. That's how I reached out to Namratha, and our energies matched, and we are taking the work to the next level, exchanging knowledge and making future plans together. Definitely.
So you found out about each other from the map?
Yes.
Oh, great! Well, that's incredible. And how many other veganic farms are there in India that you know about?
Yeah, know about. Obviously, I know Arati's farm and Namratha's, and there are a few more, I think, down south, but I'm not in contact with them.
So are there farms in India which are sort of veganic by default? They don't think of them, they don't call themselves veganic, they just happen to be farming that way?
You know something, there are some farms which are using the cow dung and urine. You cannot call them veganic, but they are compassionate, like they're taking care of the animals. Yeah, that's what I could say.
And the potential for veganic and veganism in India, how do you see that?
Well, right now, for my interactions with the farmers, we have a long way to go.
Has anybody else got any thoughts on that? Go for it, Julie.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, the big problem is is the sacred cow, shall we say. So people have this misunderstanding about India, and I'm saying this as an outsider, because I too had a misunderstanding about India, because people talk about, the sacred cow and how we love our cows and things like that. It is a myth. It is really something that is being played upon, and, a narrative that everybody wants to promote. The fact is that there is maybe, I think, something like 1/5 of the population, 300 million people who are vegetarian. But in India, vegetarian means lacto-vegetarian, of course. The idea is that the cow is, it's really wrapped up in, religious and spiritual and agricultural and economic, so many different cultural, traditional factors, that it's really, really hard for a lot of people to, take a step back. And so in terms of really, we have found, I do a lot of outreach when I'm in India as well, vegan outreach, and we have found that it's actually easier to talk to people who are omnivorous than it is to talk to people who are vegetarian about veganism. At the same level, it's the same thing with the veganic farming, because there is this idea always promoting the cow as a necessity, a spiritual necessity, or at least a spiritual, a symbol, of purity and of Mother Earth and of Mother, the mother who nourishes us. So we really do have a lot of work to do on that side. Yeah.
Okay, anybody else got any thoughts on that? Arati?
Yeah, so you mentioned about what possibilities exist for increasing, veganism in India. I think a piece of statistics would be that the country is the diabetes capital of the world. And in all the conversations that I've had with the farmers or others, around, they're willing to curtail or cut down their dairy consumption on their own health grounds. And then there are several people who think more scientifically also and are more concerned about the environment, who would be more likely to think in terms of the water footprint or of the methane footprint, impact of dairy on having to grow so much more fodder for feeding these animals. Instead of that, we could simply make space for feeding human beings, if we didn't breed them in such large numbers. So a lot of these environmentally conscious individuals who are thinking in terms of water and forest land and habitats of wild animals and everything are more inclined to maybe ditching or to curtail their dairy intake. So they would be the ones who are most likely to come on board. Yeah.
I'd like to just add one last thing. I'm really sorry because there's so many other questions, but I think it's really important to remember, and this maybe will fall into another questions that maybe people from the spectators are asking, the audience is asking, is that animal husbandry, especially cows and buffaloes, dairying, is heavily subsidized by the government. And so this is a very, very, this is when Arati spoke before about not a level playing field. It's really because of chemical agriculture, yes, but especially animal husbandry. And when we talk about animal husbandry, we're really, really talking about cows and buffaloes, but mainly cows. So this is one of the big problems that we are faced with. A lot of animals, a lot of people are given subsidies to buy animals. And then they find themselves in dire straits when there's no more fodder, when there's droughts or when there's floods or things like that. Unfortunately, a lot of people only come into money because the dairy prices fluctuate, and it's never enough to cover all of the charges, all of the costs that they have for fodder, for water and things like that. But unfortunately, a lot of people, they only really come into money from having these animals when they send them to the slaughterhouse. So this is a very, very, very big problem in India, and something that Jeeva Bhavana, our mothership, shall we say, environmental, we are working on trying to get policy change and trying to get other things to be subsidized to a level of where animal agriculture is subsidized.
If I may chip in here a bit about what we are doing also in order to address this issue of getting the data in place, understanding the real ground level situation, is we are undertaking research, and we had a pilot study last year which collected data from more than 150 farms, dairy farms, both urban, semi-urban, and rural areas. And we found out about the doubtful economic sustainability of these farms. As Julie mentions it rightly, that government is highly subsidizing dairy farms. So we are, undertaking research, and we are looking for ways in which to conduct this research in different parts of the state to begin with, in order to understand the ground reality and go on and make the impact on policy that Julie is just now talking about. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well, I think I've got lots of questions, but also we've had quite a few things sent in. Maybe we'll just go through them and see what people have sent in. Looking forward. Hello. Great to be here. Do you have any views on biochar? Does that play a part in your systems? Any comments on that?
I can just tell you that I've been like a biochar great fan for many, many years. And it is something that we do want to try and look into. at this point, we're not really incorporating it into our farming methods. Of course, it certainly could be used. I happen to think that biochar is really a tool that can be used for the future, especially when it comes to, biomass and preserving biomass and also CO2 emissions. And in India, I don't know the number exactly, but it was some sort of a horrible number that there's so many people who are burning biomass and cow dung. Of course, it's used a lot as combustion, material. And there's something like, I don't know, 100,000 women who die every year from CO2 inhalation, because of the amount of fumes that it produces. So biochar is a big yes, but we just don't know how we're going to really incorporate it.
Okay, we got a question here. How is veganic agriculture a sustainable answer or way forward to climate change and global warming and implications of climate change and global warming on vegan agriculture? Would anyone like to answer that one?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I could just start, and there's so much we all would want to contribute, I'm sure. So the whole thing about veganic agriculture is to bring down the number of animals on the planet, especially we're referring to India. And we are home to the world's largest livestock population, especially cattle. So once we start the vegan farming practices happening on more and more farms, then we are actually facilitating decreasing the number of animals. It's going to take time, but that's what is required today with the amount of methane emissions that are happening from the animals. And that is what is really perpetuating the problem of global warming. So that's how India would contribute in a big way to reduce the methane emissions, which are really the cause, which are speedily warming the planet, methane emissions.
Okay. Anybody like to add to that?
The sheer use of resources and the sheer number of cattle, as rightly mentioned by Madhavi, and I think it's a water scarce country. India is a water scarce country, and so in that situation, having breeding so many animals into existence to basically then take care of them, their fodder and other needs and everything. It is contributing to all the CO2, all the methane, and the increase in number of slaughterhouses, everything. India is the largest exporter of beef, as mentioned earlier, and leather, and so all of these things become kind of a complex web where by way of understanding how much food can be produced by the earth vis-a-vis how many creatures can live on it, is, if you just weigh that in, you would see that there is very clear evidence in favor of the contribution of farm animals to um, climate change. And it is not as though we want to eliminate them. It is just that human beings have to stop interfering and stop breeding them into existence. That's and that is how there will be a natural balance that they will achieve. Yeah.
Okay. Have you observed shifts in mindset among local communities as they watch your veganic transition? Anyone? Okay.
I can take that, Dan. Definitely yes, because at Bilwa we have a lot of visitors um, who know about us from many sources. I really don't know how, but as I mentioned, we also have, agricultural researchers who would come to Bilwa to see how we are farming, and that is, the academics. But in our local communities, I personally know all the farmers around Bilba who come to me, with their problems, with talking about how should they go about, what should they do with the animals, because breeding animals, taking care of them is, consuming a lot of their energy and also a lot of their finances. So they also want to slowly transition, though, again, like we spoke about the traditional method versus the, latest thought process change, right? So that's taking time, but they're definitely curious, and definitely the process has started, I can say. Yeah.
Okay. So what challenges do you face when talking to other farmers about converting to vegan organic farming methods?
Shall I? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just want this will address your question as well and complement what Namratha just said. Uh, of course, farmers are very skeptical about what we are doing. I mean, apart from not using animal waste, also not using chemical fertilizers. So they are silently observing us with a lot of skepticism, of course. How is it going to be possible? That's what they ask. Even for removing the weeds, they are looking at me as, I mean, she's wasting her time getting and wasting resources, getting labor to remove the weeds. And For us, it is providing livelihood, and of course, getting a healthy produce without using animal waste and chemical fertilizers is something very surprising for them. They also know that this is the traditional way of farming. I mean, the previous generation in their days, they were doing farming with very less external input. My mother-in-law, who lives on the farm, she does come and talk to me, and she goes and checks the crops growing, and she always comments, "It's growing so well, and your produce is so good." So yeah, it's the thought process is going in the right direction. I will say they're curious, they're sitting on the fence, but the more we interact, the more we show results. I'm sure they will start understanding and connecting the dots.
And the production of your farms, the veganic farms, to your surrounding farms, and how they look. What's the look? I mean, the pictures you showed us looked like really inviting, like full of wildlife and abundance of grass. Some of the pictures look like I was in look like the UK. So how do those pictures compare to the surrounding farms?
Shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
So our last harvest, the first harvest of rice that we had, our farm manager, Khandu, also has his own farm, and he grows, rice. And his words were that, he spoke in Marathi. I'll try and translate that. This is a very solid, strong grain of rice that we have harvested today. That is what he said to me. And he believed that, without any chemical inputs, without putting any pesticides or anything, we have managed to have nothing that afflicted our rice. Somehow, the rice turned out very well. We didn't spray anything. In fact, the land was lying fallow for a very long time, and so there were fears that it has become very clayey. So what has to be done? So all that we did was to add this leaf compost and some microbes, which took care of the bad guys maybe, and we didn't need to put pesticides. So definitely, he said, tastes better, looks better, the grain. And when we gave it out to our family and friends and neighbors, they also appreciated and loved the taste of the rice. So yeah, definitely better tasting produce, like definitely.
Excellent. Any other comments on that one?
I just want to add to what you said about the look of the farm versus look of our farms versus the neighboring farms, Dan. Um, so definitely, all the farmers who are growing naturally, they look very similar because they have a tree cover, they have they have all weeds growing all around, etc. Because that's the process of natural farming. But if we compare a natural farmer with a chemical farmer, it's it is definitely not a very pretty sight for a chemical farmed land versus natural farmland. Coming to veganic, we will people who do not farm in a vegan way, they have these cow sheds, surrounded by a lot of insects and insects, mosquitoes breeding, etc. That too in the Indian because of Indian climatic conditions. But of course, there are people who take care of their surroundings as well, where they are breeding animals. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well, we've had a number of questions sent in or comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show them all up on the screen, and then at the end, you just choose which ones you'd like to address, because I'd like just everyone to have their voice being heard. So I'll just do them sort of one by one. So how is veganic agriculture sustainable? I think we had that one already. That's how do you answer naysayers who claim farm productivity as an issue with organic farming? Let's have a look. Is there a systemic analysis to demonstrate how this practice is beneficial in the long run, being climate resilient and healthy farming? Let's have a look. Oh, we got a lot of questions from Unmesh. Has the cost of climate of industrial farming been estimated that could help demonstrate the value of organic farming? Let's have a look. Andy says, great insights. Lilac Farm, whatever that means. Unmesh, how did this collective communicate and grow? Are you actively promoting idea of Urvarasa? Let's have a look. Your stance on mechanization of agriculture, manual labor is so difficult. Yes, animal agriculture is subsidized in the UK. I nearly got my apples ready for stewing. We have 3-acre veganic food forest in development. Okay, well, get on the map. Send us an email. Maybe we can interview you. Liberate, don't negotiate. It's not about reduction. The demand is liberation of all animals from slavery while having a habitable planet, and one's personal health is their responsibility. Got lots of comments here. How do we help you connect with other like-minded farmers to create a collaboration network? Such an enlightening webinar. Kudos to you all for your brave and innovative work. Please do amplify your good practices so more people can learn from your experiences. Thank you. Let's have a look. Have we got any more? Oh, they got more. Thank you so much for giving an optimistic answer to my question. I really appreciate your teamwork. Keep inspiring others and keep growing. I am on the map. Andy, great. Good to hear, Andy. Good, we can interview you next. Okay, have we got any, would you like to respond to any of those comments or say anything in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would like to comment on Nikita's question. I mean, it's already been answered, but one other question that generally people ask me is about veganic farming. It is only the cow dung and cow urine, the excreta that is used in farming, then what is the problem? We're in fact, by using this excreta, we're actually solving the problem of animal agriculture, right? I mean, animal breeding. But the problem is, it's the excreta that is used, but also it's a vicious cycle that we are getting into, and that's why we suggest do not breed animals or use anything that's linked to animals at all. Like how Julie explained at the beginning of our presentation, how the cycle is very vicious. And I would also like to talk about manual labor. One of the questions, I forgot the name of the audience. But yeah, manual labor is very, very difficult to find. Um, so, with natural farming, with veganic farming, at least in my experience, what happens is there is not much work that goes into farming activities as such, right? Because the whole idea of natural farming is that the farmer is just there to oversee what's happening with the crops, and just walk around, talk to them, but otherwise there is not much work except for plantation and harvesting. During the rest of the period is when de-weeding happens, and we try to spray some neem oil sometimes when we see the need. Otherwise, there's not much work. So the in my case, the farmer himself does everything, and when we need extra labor, uh, we try to get help from the neighborhood community. When that doesn't happen, at least for us, we are fortunate to have this whole community of sharing the farm equipment. There are places where we can rent the farm equipment, also create circular economy so that everybody doesn't have to buy the equipment for themselves, spending so much money. And yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. Yeah, thank you.
So I'd like to go, Dan, with Sumesh's questions, right, about farm labor and whether organic produces more value. So addressing what Namrata just said, yes, it can be difficult getting farm labor, but as Namrata said, the practice itself is so holistic for the farm setup that eventually you don't end up needing so much help. But of course, if the farm is big, it depends on the logistics. What I'm doing on my farm is I'm also educating the ladies there about the importance of working in a healthy environment, and maybe this will help us sustain at least the people who are coming, the ladies who are coming on the farm. We share our farm produce with them and explain to them about, as I said, importance of the healthy and dignified working conditions. Regarding the value of organic produce, of course, anyone who understands the importance of eating toxin-free food and the production process will understand the value. Um, when we are raising awareness, people often have the question about the price, the premium price at which it's sold. But there's a choice, before the customer. Either you buy this produce at a fair price because the farmer is going to be compensated for his hard work, or you pay the hospital bills, which are really overwhelming because of the wrong food, toxin-laden food that we're having in the present times. So that is one of the things. And of course, the whole production process is helping the planet, and it's a win-win for everyone. So that's how I would call it valuable.
So can veganic farming in India help with desertification and ecosystem restoration? With India being, what is it, like more than a quarter of India is now desert, can this be reversed through veganic farming? Go for it.
Oh, okay. Madhavi, I was going to let you go for it. There's so much to be said about it. And I think to join one of the questions beforehand, we have to talk about desertification because 1/3 of the country was not desert many, many years ago. One of the big problems, of course, with animal agriculture and other projects as well, mining and highways and things like that, is the fact of cutting down forests, is the fact of actually depleting ecosystems of their breath, basically the ability to breathe with trees and vegetation, and destroying ecosystems, and that does lead to soil erosion, and eventually it leads to desertification. So one of the big things with animal agriculture, and this is one of the reasons that Jeeva Bhavana's main focus is studying the devastating effects of animal agriculture, not only on climate change, but also on the environment and ecosystems. So once the damage is done, of course, it's much more difficult to come back from the real devastation. So one of the things that we work on is to slow down and absolutely stop, if possible, the desertification. And one of the ways of doing, of course, is stopping animal agriculture. As to being able to recreate, it's true that there have been some experiments. I think it was in Brazil, of when people have been in certain areas that were maybe not as desertified as they are in India, but where they were able to bring back rain after planting and taking care of trees and things like that, and the rainfall really, really augmented. I'm not sure if we have too many examples in India of being able to bring back desert into ecosystems that will allow people to grow healthy, veganic produce on it. Madhavi, you wanted to say something? You might have a little bit more information than I do.
Because our model also places emphasis on raising a fruit forest, right? It is actually meant to be a food forest or a forest which will bring back the healthy ecosystem that is necessary for a good farming practice, which will bring back the soil fertility and the birds and all the insects and organisms, and also because of the trees, the groundwater levels will go up. So this is a way of I wouldn't say rewilding, but growing the forest cover, growing the number of trees, and that's how this model will help Urvarasa. The more we have these models spreading across the country, we'll have these green patches growing. And of course, we also would encourage farmers who have many big patches of land, like hundreds of acres, to give back some of it for rewilding. That is also a possibility.
There's a project in Africa where they're building a green wall, which is supposed to go from the east to the west of Africa. Is there a similar project in India?
No, not that I've heard of this yet.
Not yet. Maybe that's on the horizon. Maybe that's what needs to happen.
May I respond to some of the questions and some of the topics that have come up? I remember Madhavi talking about how in her vicinity, which was a water shortage area, for most part, there was no rain or very scanty rain. And then they had some irrigation project and some water being made available to the farmers. They grew fruit trees and little shrubs, and the greenery began to grow. And the farmers said that before they could see the clouds, but they would fly away. But then slowly, as the green cover increased, the trees increased, the rains also improved. So I think that story was very striking for me about how planting more trees is going to be the key in avoiding desertification, as you're saying. But about the question of the productivity versus the demand of the hungry population, so to say. um, Produce in quantity might appear to have increased, because with the green revolution, especially because more land was also brought under cultivation, one, and secondly, more encouragement was given to growing the hybrid varieties of wheat. Whereas this was the time when the local varieties of millets and other things, or jawar or bajra and all these products kind of declined. So the total productivity of food grains increased, but the variety sort of went down. One. Secondly, I feel the quality of nourishment in organically produced food is significant, because you need less to be satisfied, and you need less to nourish you, rather than the production which is laced with chemicals would probably not have as much nourishment as the as a natural produce has, even taste, that Namrata was saying, that people remembered their childhood taste of fruits and vegetables and food. Also, the whole idea that uh, you know uh, that the costing, the demonstrating actually that it works, will have to be done over a period of time. I mean, it's a commitment that comes from thinking about the problem logically, and now we have to prove by keeping costs. We teach our farmers to do the same, and work out that it could lead to a more sustainable farming and consumption practices, which will be a win-win situation for everyone. And so over a period of time, maybe we can prove that yes, this worked. This worked in so many more ways than one. That is the health angle, that it is always better to consume produce which is natural versus laced with chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides. Yeah.
Great. So we've had a question from Travis, which sounds quite interesting. If anybody would like to answer this question. Are there situations where chemical fertilizers are warranted? Is it necessary to be dogmatic to organic practices? Hydroponics? Any thoughts on that one? Or not?
Julie, are you going?
I mean, this is my opinion. I don't think that we have any, like Jeeva Bhavana has not come out with a statement about this, so I don't want to represent Jeeva Bhavana because we haven't really spoken about this. But I would say that I don't think that there's in any way, shape, or form a time when chemical inputs are necessary. I think that, of course, sometimes you have to be a little bit more patient. Things don't come back immediately. But the other side of using chemicals is so devastating. It's not just what you're putting in the soil, but it's also the production of these chemicals. So, so it's very, very petrol heavy. It's very, very carbon heavy. It's also very, very based with heavy machinery. So there's just so much else, a lot of externalities that we're not seeing by producing these chemicals, fertilizers, chemical agriculture. So personally, this is just me speaking as an individual, I would say no. I think that it doesn't have to be like organic, it can be like veganic, it can natural. I mean, there's other types of agriculture that are non-chemical. Madhavi, I'll let you speak about that.
Yeah, yeah. This is a question like quite commonly we have to answer, and what that is why it's important to know that we are giving the farmer a choice, and we are slowly transitioning them. So when they see the results on veganic farming practices or chemical-free farming practices, that's when they develop the conviction to adopt that farming practice. So we are not really intentional about pointing fingers at anything, but trying to give the best solution. Also, I'm a little digressing, but going back to what was discussed earlier is the farm produce, whether it is self-sufficient in the organic way or organic way compared to conventional farming. We have to first question where is this produce, which is food grain or produce grown conventionally, where is it going? Most of it is going for animal feed or for processing, and that's where we are finding the shortage of food for feeding human beings, especially. So that is something one needs to inquire into while comparing the two farming practices.
Arati?
Yeah, one common conversation that happens is when we seek out guidance from experts, and we ask them, if a farm has to be transitioned from heavy chemical use to natural or organic, how will that work? So one quick answer that was given to me was, one, leave the land fallow for a bit, or grow something that you don't expect much from. And so the effects of the chemicals, the fertilizers and everything has to be washed off, has to be removed for you to get a good harvest. So the soil with the chemical agriculture becomes so infertile, that it cannot grow anything without assistance, without the chemical use. So what is actually coming to us is the stuff that is laden with chemicals. Again, I don't have much expertise about hydroponics, but I feel the soil is very, very important. So I wouldn't discount that. Um, but yeah, so experts are also saying that you have to move steadily from chemical based agriculture to organic, and it will have to be a process that will probably take 2 or 3 years, and in that interim period we need to work out how it goes. But what is going to be very important, and I think that's another question that is there, how can we help connect with other like-minded farmers to create a collaboration network. I think it's from the audience. I think we all need to get together and have conversations. And I think the vegan organic network is a place from where we can get to know each other. Like we got to know Bilva Farm and Namratha. So these are the ways in which we will have to come together, help each other, and help the soil be fertile again, naturally.
Wow. Okay. The questions are still flooding in. I'll just go through so we've sort of show people's questions. Let's have a look. We've got this one. Animal agriculture is about land use, silage, and fodder beets. Hello, just joined. Thank you for sharing your practices. Has anyone discussed the use and implementation of mushrooms and mycorrhizal additions to substrate? Let's have a look. Hi, thanks for your efforts. Are there studies comparing nutritional values of conventional organic and vegan produce? I don't eat pesticides or herbicide. That's good to know, Andy. Veganic is about growing soil, so you don't need fertilizer. I mean, here in the UK, I mean, there's I think the green revolution is quite confusing, because the green revolution sounds like the start of veganic farming, but actually it was the start of growing food with chemicals and pesticides, which was maybe about 70 years ago. And I think here in the UK, we're certainly seeing a rise of cancers, lots of diseases for people, lots of health issues for people, but not only people, for the land. Here in the UK, I think it was calculated as 16% of our rivers are healthy. So it's the externalities of the animal and chemical farming, which quite often isn't being accounted for. So have you got any thoughts on any of those questions, or anything you'd like to add?
I just want to add one point about hydroponics. All of us being natural farmers, right? When we talk about natural farming, it's about farming in the soil, enriching the soil. While from the little knowledge I have about hydroponics does not involve any soil at all, right? And all the nutrients that come to the plants or the saplings in hydroponic systems are lab manufactured. That itself, again, it's my opinion, that itself to me is not natural farming. I do not have statistics about the nutritional value of soil grown food versus hydroponics, because in India hydroponics is just picking up, and few, not commercially, but few people at a small scale are doing hydroponic farming as well. Yeah, and also another point, instead of coming back in, I would like to mention is, I see that there is a lot of interest in the work we do, and to get this vegan, to get the idea of veganic farming into people, a lot of us need to start talking about it. Right? It's about the behavior change in the customers, with the farmers, with everybody. Right? With the farmers, it is about seeing it by themselves, and for customers, it's to understand what is the reason why should they consume foods that are grown in through such methodologies, and how is it helping them in terms of their health, not just for themselves, but for the health of the earth as well, right? The soil, etc. So please do reach out to us. Our email address is given. We have a website, Instagram page. We're on Facebook as well. Do reach out to us. We need people. We need a lot of people to come in, step in, and do any kind of work you connect with. So do reach out to us, and we'll figure out how this can be done. Yeah. And of course, all the model farms that we spoke about today in the presentation are open for visiting. Anybody wants to visit, do write to us, and we are very, very happy to have you all over. India is known for its hospitality. Yeah, thank you.
Regarding the comparison of nutritional value of conventionally grown farm produce, or whether it's organic or veganic, I think for me, this is my personal opinion, the measure is how much of toxins are going in the production of that food. Especially, there is a study apparently about how adding cow dung also can impact the soil adversely and add toxins to the soil. I think that's the most important measure of what is going into the production of food, because already the so-called nutritious food, which is coming from conventional farms, is already labeled with toxins, and that's the most important problem that we're having with food these days.
I just,
About many of our questions that are generally raised, uh, we are undertaking some or the other researches, and with respect to many of the questions that have come up, I think we can see directions for further research. And thank you for these queries, because they will help us look in that direction and investigate the whole idea and the practice of organic farming, and come up with responses by investigating. So definitely we would like to undertake, because already all our three farms are producing something or the other. The other two transitioning farms too, and so we can have ample a way to conduct nutritional studies from the completely veganic farms, the transitioning farms, as well as the conventional chemical based farms. And we can probably do research, but I think that will be a whole lot of expenses. Should we give out a proposal and get funding for it, we should be definitely willing to look at it as a way to prove, because yes, we need to scientifically prove um, things. Yeah, so yeah, that gives a direction. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to say that I really wish that I could be with Andy and taste his apples, because he's giving us I love, they're probably wonderful. I also just want to say, yeah, we really, one of the things that we really want to do is research on many different things. And as Arati just said, people have given us different lines of, what type of research we could do. I would invite anyone who has any type of research background, or knows of people who would want to do that, to really step up and to find out, and to talk with us, to brainstorm on how we can get this data out there. Because what we know intuitively, I think really will transfer to data. The last thing I want to say is that I think it was also Andy who said, veganics is about growing healthy soil. And we're talking about also healthy food, is growing soil so that you don't need fertilizer. Yes, thank you. So it's growing soil, right? But we also are growing food from that soil. And as we know, all over the world, we're seeing the nutritional values of all of the foods that we are eating really, really decreasing. So the same apple that people are eating now, not of course not if it's organic, or the same wheat, shall we say, that people are eating now, as opposed to the nutritional value of that wheat 30 or 40 or 50 years ago, has really, really been has decreased. And that goes for almost all food groups. So this, I think, is very, very much intuitively, we could just say it's also because of the soil health, excuse me, which is very, very poor. And also because it's chemical ridden. Excuse me, I'm going to cough. There we go.
Okay, folks, I think we have had a good session here, hearing about your project, and it's so exciting. Veganic farming in India is happening, it is growing, it's a growing movement, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys next year, you ladies, should I say, next year, and finding what's happening, how many more farmers we've got on the map, how many more farmers have gone veganic, and the change in the landscape, and our movements to building a green wall across India. A green wall across the world is what we need for the planet, people, animals, and the planet. So thank you, everybody who's watched through our 1 hour 35 presentation, and to you, the panel, and watch out for, we got some events coming up which I should just mention. Let's have a look here. We've got the Veganic Summit, and I think there's a presentation about the Indian project at the Veganic Summit, so that's free to join. Thank you all, thank you panel, and look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you very much, Vegan Organic Network.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Vaughn. Yes, thank you.